Hi everyone, I'm Chloe and welcome back to the Mentors Connect podcast. Today on the podcast we have Michelle, who has had an amazing career thus far. She started off in investment banking, then found herself at ANZ as the CFO and now is the CFO at Transurban, which is a massive network tolls company. If you're from Melbourne like me, you probably go through CityLink a bit, and that, is owned by Transurban. And yeah, they're a massive operation, also listed on the ASX and have tolls globally. So thank you so much, Michelle, for meeting me today.
Thanks, Chloe. I'm very excited to be here. It's lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much. So I've kind of tried to give a bit of a brief overview of what you've done, but I was hoping if you could dive in a bit more, tell us your journey to Transurban.
Yeah, well, you did a really good job. So I'm Melbourne, born and bred. So I was born here in Melbourne, and when I was at school, I was really good at math and I was really good at languages, and I didn't know what I wanted to be. I quite liked psychology, bizarrely, and I thought I might want to be a foreign diplomat at one point. But somehow I ended up doing law and economics at Monash Uni, which I did for 6 years, and I even taught economics for a couple of years there as well. And then I got a job in one of the big law firms here in Melbourne, which I did for just under 3 years, and then found my way. I really want to be in business, so I found my way into investment banking. I was with UBS for a long time, and I spent probably north of 15 years in investment banking before I was lucky enough to get the ANZ CFO job. And then about 18 months ago, I decided to join Transurban. What really excited me, and we can talk about what Transurban does in a minute, but what I was really excited by was a business that builds something tangible, and I could look out the window and see that tangible, and being part of a business that was growing as well. So that's me.
No, that sounds pretty cool. And yeah, you've given me a good segue, because my first question that I prepared is, if you could please explain what Transurban actually does, and then how does your role as CFO fit into all of that?
Yeah, so there's a lot in that. So Transurban, we operate 21 roads, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane here in Australia, so sort of the eastern major cities, as well as Washington, DC, in North America, in the US, and Montreal as well. So 21 roads. Essentially what our business does, and it is a city-based business, we help people move around the city, either in and out of the city, to the airport, the port, or some of our roads actually go around the city as well. And what we've done over many years, CityLink was our first asset here in Melbourne, basically working with government on there's population growth, and therefore people need more access to moving around. There might be congestion, and sometimes it can be hard for governments to fund that up front, because and that's where the private sector can help. So we work with the government. We effectively join up the government with the contractors and find a solution to fund the roads, and then we get paid back that over time through the customer in a user paid system. So it's the customers use. They pay it. We have about 9 million customers, so it's actually quite a lot of customers, about 6 million in Australia and a bit over 3 million in North America. They choose our roads because they're faster.
It is. I can attest to that.
Exactly. More reliable, they're safer. So we can show that our roads, we put a lot of effort into road safety. It's one of our big areas of focus. Our roads are significantly safer than the alternatives, and they're actually more efficient, so more fuel and carbon efficient as well. What do I do as the CFO? I don't just count the cars. I've got a pretty wide range of things I do. So everything from normal finance things, so preparing the accounts, managing our debt and equity, because we have a lot of investment that we have to support with funds, through to sort of business services like procurement, looking after our properties, legal, and sort of governance type areas report to me, as well as our corporate affairs, investor relations and sustainability. So it's quite a wide range. I knew you were going to ask me what do I do, so I went and looked at my diary for last week. So I thought maybe that'll give you an indication. So last week I was looking at my diary. I spent a lot of time with our investors because we just had our full year results, and so part of my job alongside our CEO is to go around and talk to our investors, explaining the result and importantly explaining what we're doing going forward, and what investors are very focused on what their dividend or distribution is going to be and what's going to drive that, where we're investing, what our projects are. So a lot of time on that. Then time working around looking at some of our growth initiatives, in particular potential new road projects and how we're going to fund them and how we're going to evaluate them. Quite a bit of time. One of the things I said reports to me is corporate affairs, and within that is our social license area. So we're really, really, we know we exist because we've got the endorsement of the community. And so we're very, very focused on our social license, and there are 3 areas we really put a lot of effort into. So they are empowering our customers, so the work we do for customers to make them see the value in the roads, but also looking after customers that might be vulnerable, road safety, so big area of focus, and also looking after the communities, so strengthening the communities. And then I actually spend a lot of my time on people because I'm one person, I've got a big team, and actually a lot of my time is working with people, understanding the things they're working on, making sure everyone's working towards our strategy, and working through various people issues.
That makes so much sense.
Broad.
Yeah, a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Imagine being in your shoes one day. Yeah, but you kind of give me a good segue. You've talked a bit about a lot of your job is looking at investment in roads, whether that's for safety or new opportunities. But what I'm curious about, so how do you and your team within the finance group of Transurban keep track of all the money going in and out of the business? So, whether that's putting improvements to roads or like the customers actually paying for the use of that.
Yeah, so we put a lot of effort and investment into technology and data. And in many ways, I'd say we're 2 things. We've got a lot of engineers and a lot of technology people in our company. So, for example, if you have a linked account, so if you go on Link and you have a linked account, we keep track of you through that account. So every time you travel, we know you've travelled. If you don't have an account, we've got technology that would take a photograph of your number plate and we keep track of you that way. So we see a lot of data. I get every day, in the morning, I get data from yesterday's traffic, what was happening on all our roads. And that data not only helps keep track of, as you say, in terms of from a financial perspective, but we use that data to run the roads better. So we know this particular road has had this much traffic on it at these times of day. So this is what we should do in terms of ventilation or maintenance. So it helps us run the roads better as well. So yeah, a lot of data. Yeah.
Data driven, isn't it? Our new society.
Data people. Yeah, exactly.
So at the start you were kind of mentioning how Transurban's roads, they're more like environmentally friendly, perhaps use less carbon. So could you explain perhaps, what Transurban's put in place to ensure that this happens? Because undeniably, cars perhaps are seen as more pollutant, and as well as that, how have you made it financially viable for the company as you do have investors?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually our investors more and more are asking these questions because they care about the longevity of our business. If they're going to put money into a business, and our assets on average have a 30-year life. So we have a contract with the government for 30 years, some of them much longer than that. So we need to know that we've got a long-term sustainable business, as do our investors. We were one of the first companies to have science-based targets. I think we had them in 2013 from memory. And we've signed up to 2030 and 2050 commitments, so net zero by 2050. In terms of I put it into 3 buckets. So you say our own usage, we're actually well on the way to net zero through our own usage. We've got renewable energy that supports almost all of our assets in Australia. And we've got LED lighting in our tunnels. You ask about financial viability. Actually, for us, they were very, very smart financial decisions. And with the way electricity prices have gone, it actually has been a financial benefit to do that. So I think sustainability and financially good decisions can actually go together rather than going apart. We're also working with a lot of our suppliers, because the suppliers, particularly those that provide the asphalt or the steel for the roads, they're on track, they're on a path also to net zero, so we work with them. And then the way the targets get calculated, our customers' emissions don't get calculated for us. They get calculated for the people that produce the cars. But we say, well, that doesn't pass the smell test, so we think we should be doing something there as well. So we're trying to do a lot to promote the uptake of electric vehicles. As an example, if you go on our website and you type in, I want to go to the airport, it will tell you, okay, you can go on the Transurban road. It's going to cost you this much in tolls versus the free alternative. It's going to take this long versus the free alternative will take you that time. And you'll use this much fuel on the 2 alternatives and emit this much carbon. So we think transparency and education also really important.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and sometimes like the time as well, I say, is money. And it's a lot quicker. Yeah.
And everyone's got different things that are important to them. And so, sometimes time is less value for you, and other times it's really, really important. So, and that's what we find our customers choose. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've kind of been talking about the environment, and building off that, what do you and Transurban see as the future of toll networks? So we're seeing more electric cars, more like the systems of the actual infrastructure.
Yeah, so we think people will continue to move around, particularly as populations continue to grow in our major cities. And they are good cities, the ones we're in. They're really good cities to live in. So we see the population continuing to grow, but a couple of big changes: electrification of vehicles, which we've spoken about, which will make travelling more efficient, and also automation. So you'll see connected and automated driverless vehicles. We think that's a really great opportunity for our business as well, because, if you think about trucks, for example, if you're running a truck company, if you can have the trucks travel at night and using less fuel and faster times, that'll be better for you, and also for our customers that are trying to get around during the day. It means the congestion spread over.
And that's where a lot of the innovation's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, so lots of innovation there. We also think ultimately it'll be safer, because a lot of the accidents you see today are what we call rear end accidents. So whereas with better technology, you'll be able to prevent that as well. So we see them as potential. We're doing a lot of work for how we be ready for those changes.
No, very, very interesting. Thank you for that. So before we finish up, I've got a few personal questions, Michelle.
Yeah.
And the first one is, I was hoping, this podcast is called Mentors Connect. And, I was hoping if you could perhaps talk about a mentor in your career who's really helped you and impacted you in a positive light.
Yeah. The most, I reckon, it's hard because there've been so many people, and you'll find
Have I put you onto a tough spot?
no, but you'll find as you go through your own career journey, there'll be lots of people along the way who won't even know they're helping you sometimes. Because the person who's probably been the most impactful, funnily, was my grade 6 teacher. So he, I remember we had to write this essay for homework one night on what we wanted to be when we were older. And I said I wanted to be a writer because I quite liked writing stories. And he wrote me this essay back that was longer than my essay on all the things I could try to be. And just gave me confidence that it didn't matter which path. He sort of believed in me, that regardless what path I chose, he thought I had potential. So that had a big impact, because I'm someone, like many of us, who, you know, will often think, oh, I can't do that. And just having that person really early on in my life saying, no, don't second guess yourself, just give it a go, was really important. And then, yeah, along the way, there have been so many. I've worked in quite male-dominated industries, especially when I was going through them. So I was never able to say I wanted to be somebody else exactly, but I could take little bits from different people and sort of work out, oh, I like that technical skill about that person, or I like the way that person talks to people, and just try and take those skills together. And then the other one that was really important to me, I've got 2 children. I've got their year 11 and year 8. And it's quite tough when your kids are little and you're sort of deciding what you want to do with your career. And I had a boss at the time that was just really, really supportive and said, whatever, basically however you want to do it, we'll support you. And that made a big difference to me as well.
Well, that's amazing. And now switching the positions, now putting you in the position of mentor, Michelle, what is a piece of advice you would share to a young audience member, perhaps, who is an aspiring leader in finance?
So what I would say is always try and work with the best people. You'll have time later in your career to try things on your own or whatever it is. But at the start, you want to learn as much as you can. And early in my career, well, all through my career, actually, I've always tried to work with people I feel like I can learn something from and that inspire me, and really trying to work with the best people I could. I think being curious, I ask a lot of questions, and I'm not scared of art, because you never have all the answers. And not being scared to ask people lots of questions and then put it together. And then probably the other 2 things I'd say would be grounded. So make sure you've got people in your life that don't care about what you do, because they, a lot of my family and friends don't really care what I do on a day-to-day basis, but they, they keep me interesting and just more a whole person rather than someone who just does a job. And then probably the final thing, I remember saying to one of my bosses, I don't need a finance degree to do this job. But I think I need a psychology degree, because so much of what you do if you want to go into business is just working with other people and really just listening to people and understanding them. And it's really not thinking you have the answers all the time, but being really open to listening to others.
Well, thank you so much for those great pieces of advice, Michelle, and for talking to us today and sharing all these amazing insights. It's been really interesting, and I've learned a lot, and I'm sure all the listeners have too.
Thank you, Chloe. Lovely to speak to you, and what a great initiative that you're doing. So really lovely to speak to you as well. So thank you.